Cyberbot. Cyberbot.
Time to finish off another series with Cyberbot's Full Metal Madness, a fighting game spin-off of the beat-em-up Powered Gear or Armoured Warriors. First, before anything else, I should put up a seizure warning. There is so much rapidly flashing shit in this game, so if you're affected by that, this is probably one video to skip. The game is set around 200 years before Powered Gear, near the end of the 21st century. The main connection between the two games being the game's roster being made up of mechs from the first game. This is one of those games I first became aware of around 13 or 14 from when I got into Mugen. I'd never seen this game before that and discovered it through seeing people adapting some of the roster into Mugen. While I did get this game through Capcom Arcade Stadium, I wound up having to emulate the Sega Saturn port due to an unplayable hidden character being made playable in it, plus 3 extra story mode runs. And since this port was never released outside of Japan, all the cutscene text is in Japanese, so I'll be having to look up English footage of the arcade playthroughs to know what's going on. The game uses 4 buttons for light attack, heavy attack, weapon attack and boost for quick movement around the screen. Both the weapon and boost are on a meter that needs to fill back up before being used again. Being a Capcom arcade fighter from the 90s, special moves are of course done with your standard command inputs like quarter circles and the like. There's also a power meter to be used for a super move, or it can be used on a Giga Burst when both attack buttons are pressed to break out of combos and such. One last aspect of gameplay is the critical part. Take enough damage too quickly and you can lose a part of your mech, which denies access to some of your attacks until you move back into it to reattach it. So let's get into the roster. The way the roster works is that you choose your pilot, which determines whose storyline you'll be following, and then you can select their mech, which then determines what you'll be playing as. The way I'll do this is I'll cover the default 12 arcade mechs first, then the 6 default pilot stories. After that I'll cover the boss and hidden mechs and pilot stories. The default cast are the 4 playable mechs from Powered Gear, but they each have 3 versions, based on different part combinations from that game. I'll start with the basic Blodia and its default version. Its weapon is a satellite that flies alongside it and fires a laser. The standard Shoryuken Z input gets me the Rising Full Metal Charge. Half circle forward and attack is the Break Shaft. Basic damage when hit from afar, but a command grab with a machine gun follow-up when landed up close. Quarter circle back and attack is the multi-hitting Gatling Rod. Many characters have a disassemble move done with a forward Z input and attack at throwing range that can remove a critical part, but I was never able to pull it off with most of them. I did with Blodia though. One I never pulled off myself, the direct press with forward, down forward and heavy attack when up close. One more I never pulled off and the AI also never used on me, Needle Press. When the opponent is knocked down, down up and attack will have you follow up by jumping on them. Other characters have moves like this which I can show off though. Its super move with double quarter circle forward and attack is the Planet Smasher. It's your basic multi-attack super. Blodia is meant to be the Ryu of the game, the easy to play as beginner character, but in this case I didn't really enjoy playing as it that much. It's possible it being my first playthrough when I'd be at my worst at the game would have something to do with that, but I've enjoyed other first playthrough characters before. Its moveset just felt very unimpressive for what I was expecting looking at it. Most of the rest of the cast are more over the top, so Blodia ends up looking basic and bland in comparison. Not my least favourite to play as, but closer to the bottom than the top, or even the middle. The next Blodia variant we have is the Swordsman. Swaps the legs for tank treads, the bare right arm for one with a lightsaber on the end, and the satellite laser with a stun mine launcher. Quarter circle forward and attack is the G-Splasher, just running the opponent over with treads that grow spikes. Half circle back and attack is Slay Sword, just a long vertical slash. Can be charged by holding attack and when done with heavy attack can pretty much cover the entire screen. Photon Splash with a backwards Z input and attack, a spread projectile attack. It can also be done in the air. Then vertical gears with down up and heavy attack, an attack with huge vertical range. The super with double quarter circle forward and attack is the Crescent Tornado, multiple charged Slay Swords in a row. Now this is more like it. I had infinitely more fun with Swordsman than I did with Blodia. The Photon Splash is whatever, but all the other specials are so over the top and fun and just satisfying to hit with. A full screen Slay Sword or ploughing over the opponent with G-Splasher did more for me than any of Blodia's moves. And that's without getting into some of the normals like growing a giant drill out your ass or a dash attack having you turn into a giant spiked death wheel. One of my favourites to play as. And that just leaves the last Blodia variant, Riot. Legs swapped for jet boosters and basic arms swapped for a giant cannon with a fist on the end. The weapon is a big rapid fire laser cannon. Quarter circle forward and attack is the Dynablow, a big dashing punch. It can be done in the air too. Forward Z input and attack is the Riot Strike. Turn into a drill, dig into the ground and pop out again. This one can also be done in the air. Half circle back and attack is the Death Bolt, electrocution across the entire floor. Backwards Z input and attack gets you the Shining Arm, a big slap. When done with heavy attack at the right range, it can end with a grab. Another command grab neither I nor the AI pulled off is Violent Squeeze, done with quarter circle forward to down and attack when up close. And double quarter circle forward and attack is the Super Graviton Field, a big approaching energy ball. I enjoy playing as Riot, just not as much as Swordsman, but definitely more than Blodia. It has all the flamethrower and dashing wrecking ball attacks, and the strong arm attacks and driller fun. It's just that Swordsman's moves were so much more enjoyable for me. After the Blodias, I'll next move on to the Reptos line, starting with the basic Reptos model. This weapon is a handheld laser cannon that fires a long thick shot. Violent Wind is done with half circle forward and attack, a fast dashing attack. Using heavy attack will have it turn and charge a second time. Forward Z input and attack is the Risky Nail, a ranged attack like Blodia's Break Shaft but without the grab. Quarter circle back in attack is Satellite Force, a series of lasers from the sky. Up close when done with light attack, mid screen distance with heavy and full screen distance with both. Fatality Dunk, a command grab with down, down and attack up close. The double quarter circle and attack super is full Vernian Hurricane. Multiple violent winds followed by orbital strikes on the entire screen. I don't intend to keep comparing every character to Blodia, but since Reptos is the second basic model I'm looking at after Blodia, I can't help it. They have some similarities with the basic limbs and the dash attack with a small drill coming from the legs, but Reptos was so much more fun than Blodia. A full screen charge, a good projectile with a satellite force, and faster normals, including one that looks like Dhalsim's downward spinning kick in the air. So far it's second to Swordsman in terms of enjoyment, and my favourite of the basic models. The second version is Lightning. Swaps the legs for more tank treads, the normal arm for an electrified claw, and the laser for a missile launcher. Quarter circle forward and attack is the long range Sparkle Laser, fired straight ahead with light attack and diagonally up with heavy attack. Charge down, up and attack is Rolling Gear, a bouncing spiked ball, like a powered up version of Swordsman's dash attack. When done with heavy attack it launches diagonally up. It can also be used in the air. Double down and attack is Thunder Rain, surround yourself with beams of electricity. It also has the same vertical gears attack as Swordsman with down, up and heavy attack. The super with double quarter circle forward and attack is Thunder Shaking, two huge orbs with a blinding wall of electricity connecting them. Lightning is also a lot of fun, like our last tank treaded mech, but I still enjoy Swordsman more. Too many attacks with up-use, so I end up jumping instead too often, but everything else, all the electric attacks and the range on that Sparkle Laser, feel very good to pull off. And the final Reptos model is Jackal. Legs swapped for spider legs and regular arms swapped for a bulkier one with a grapple launcher on the wrist. The weapon is a similar satellite to Blodia's. Quarter circle forward and punch is the Heat Grapple, a shot that wraps around the opponent and burns them. With heavy attack, the shot is diagonally up. Quarter circle back in attack is the Dizzy Boomerang, essentially a Tatsumaki Senpu Kyak but with robotic spider legs. Can also be done in the air. Charge down, up and attack performs the Jackal Stamp, a jump followed by repeated stamps at the head with the spider legs. There's also the Whip Sting, a rapid attack done by repeatedly tapping the attack button. The super move with the same input as the others is the Assault Bits. The grapple must connect to release several of my satellite weapons to blow the opponent to bits. Jackal might be my favourite of the Reptos models. I do admit that most of it is down to having a rapid attack with decent range. If I can cheese the computer with it, I'm happy. And for being both a charge move and one that uses up, I got some decent use out of the Jackal Stamp too. I do prefer the other two supers though, as they always come out no matter what, so even if you aren't close there's a chance that AI could stumble into it, but Jackal's needs a specific range. Next is the 40 line, starting with its basic model with a homing missile as its weapon. Iron Nail is done with quarter circle forward and attack, another extending physical attack. Then Surprise Blade with a forward Z input and attack, a rising flip kick. Charge back forward and attack is the Drill. When done with heavy attack and it connects, it becomes the Spiral Anchor where 40 spins into the opponent. Light attack, weapon attack, heavy attack is the 40 Beat, a series of flaming uppercuts. It can be extended with another uppercut into the 40 Break with another pressing of light attack. The super is Nebula Stream, a series of surprise blades. 40's okay. Better than Blodia, but I enjoyed everyone else so far more. Being so small, the range isn't that great, and most of the time I was resorting to hoping I can pin the opponent in the corner with 40 beats, or jump in surprise blades. Apart from that, I have very little to say about this machine. The second model is Tarantula, spelled wrong. Spider legs, a big claw arm, and a double missile launcher. Quarter circle forward and punch is the Powered Wrecker, an extending claw grab followed by a slam to the ground. When done with heavy attack, the claw extends diagonally up. When both attacks are pressed together, the claw goes straight up. Downward versions can be done with quarter circle forward to down followed by the attack buttons in the air. The normal slam can be swapped with a jumping slam by pressing attack during the move. Landing the grab and doing quarter circle back in attack performs the 1000 Missiles, where you throw the opponent and shoot them. A forward Z input and attack is the Rising Tornado, spinning the spider legs to rise into the air. In the air, a backward Z input and attack gets you the descending version, Falling Winds. When done with heavy attack, the attack moves straight forward instead of descending. Charge down up and attack is Tarantula Stamp, the same as Jackal Stamp attack. The super is Falling Destroy, a short hop forward and grab, and if that connects, a jumping slam. Like 40, Tarantula is just okay. It has Jackal's stamp move which I'm grateful for, but otherwise it just feels like an inferior Jackal. None of the other moves do a lot for me. I probably enjoyed it more than the basic 40 though. For this model, that just leaves Killer Bee. The legs swap for jet boosters and the arm for one with a lightsaber. The weapon is another mine launcher. Quad circle forward and attack is the Killer Screw, transform into a giant drill and fly straight forward. Can also be used in the air, and using heavy attack will make the move go diagonally up when on the ground and down while in the air. Using both attacks at once will have it fly straight up when on the ground and straight down while in the air. A forward Z input and attack is the Killer Bee Strike, same as Riot's Riot Strike. Charge back forward and attack is the Killer Eye, a straight laser beam. Using heavy attack results in multiple shots. Half circle back and attack is the Killer Sword with pretty much the same properties as Riot's Slay Sword. The super is Delta Blast, a huge triple laser spread. Killer Bee is my favourite of the 40s and the only one I think is better than okay. I even enjoyed it more than Riot, which it shares a few moves with. Having more freedom with the drill is what tips it over Riot for me. I also managed to trap a lot of opponents against the wall spamming the basic sword swing, so I enjoyed that too. This was the second mech I played through as, and the difference between it and Blodia was staggering. Now onto the final basic type, Goldin, starting with its default. No normal legs in this line, the default has tank treads. The weapon is a flamethrower. Quad circle forward and attack is the Gold Lariat, use heavy attack to extend the spin. Forward Z input and attack is the Gold Wheel, the arms stay on the ground while the rest of the mech does a flip. Use heavy attack for 2 flips. Quad circle back and attack is the Sky Gold Lariat, spinning up into the air. The super is Gold Burning, a large flamethrower blast. Goldin was by far my least favourite character to play as, and the only one I can say I outright hated the experience of playing as. Slow as shit and I couldn't find any decent ways to get in close, which is a problem in a game where most characters have great range. I really struggled and it ended up with the longest playthrough. It took me 2 hours to finish the game with this thing, although an hour and a half of that was the final boss. Heavy Gold Wheel was the only move that felt satisfying to pull off. It was my 4th playthrough and I was worried for the rest of the game when 50% of my runs that far consisted of this and Blodia. Vice is the next of this model, keeps the treads but swaps the claw for a different claw and the flamethrower for a homing missile launcher. E-pressure is done with quarter circle back and attack, basically Swordsman's G-Splasher. Capture device is done with quarter circle forward and attack, extending grab resulting in multiple slams. Heavy attack has it extend diagonally and both attacks straight up. Using a half circle forward will also have Vice advance while extending the claw. It also has the same vertical gears that Swordsman and Lightning have with down, up and heavy attack. The super is the G-Typhoon, basically T-Hawk super if T-Hawk had tank treads. Vice is better than Goldin, mainly by taking bits from other characters I enjoyed like Swordsman and Lightning, but it's still one of my lesser enjoyed characters. Having E-pressure is nice, but there's still some of Goldin's awkwardness and the super has pathetic grab rage and is easily avoided. Although its run was the very next one after Goldin, so it may have been receiving some leftover spite. But still, better than Goldin. And for the last default character and last of the Goldin line, it's Cyclone. Tread swap the spider legs and claw for a drill arm. Weapon is a mine launcher. Quad circle forward and attack is the drill cannon, firing explosive projectile. Heavy attack has it fired diagonally up. Can also be fired in the air, diagonally down with heavy attack. Forward, back, forward and punch is the hyper death drill, an extending drill attack. Having spider legs also gives it its own Cyclone stamp move with down, up and attack. The super is Final Death Drill, double extending drills. Cyclone was my favourite of the Goldins. My big issue with the other two was mobility and range, and this fixed those. Especially range, having projectiles, a long extending grab, and one that has me jump over to the opponent was so much more useful than tricky claw grabs and everything to do with basic Goldin. That's the default movesets covered, so now time to cover the 6 default pilot stories. Since there are 6 of these and 12 machines, each one had 2 playthroughs, one with their canon machine, and then the next one I hadn't covered in character select order after the first 6 playthroughs. As I said, the game is set in the late 21st century, where overpopulation of Earth has led to the creation of many space colonies. So starting with the main character, Jin Saotome, whose main machine is Blodia and who I also had pilot Swordsman. A year ago, an elite army unit was destroyed in space. Jin's father, Ken Saotome, was one of the pilots lost. Jin has since joined the variant armour combat circuit to make tons of money. His first fight is against the cyborg Shade, piloting Lightning. Before the fight starts, Shade seems to recognise the Saotome name. After winning the fight, Shade says the names Saotome and Gawain, but can't remember anything else. Jin asks how he knows Gawain, but Shade leaves. Next scene has Jin meeting Gawain. He wants to know the truth about the events of a year ago, claiming Gawain lied to him. He threatens to beat the information out of Gawain if he doesn't tell him, and so the next fight is against Gawain piloting Guldin. On losing, Gawain gives in. He says that his squad was security for an Earth core experiment. The experiment went wrong and the weapon broke free, and the entire squad was sent in to subdue it, but Gawain was the only survivor. The experiment was covered up and Gawain left a month later. Jin asks where this happened, to which Gawain says it was the colonial satellite. He didn't want Jin to follow his dad and get himself killed, but he also knows that Jin won't stop. He tells Jin he needs to find a booster in town. Next scene has Jin meeting Mary Miyabi of the Air Force, saying that she is looking for an escaped prisoner. Jin is impatient and doesn't let her finish, threatening to beat her up if she doesn't get out of his way. Fight 3 is against Mary piloting Reptos. After the fight, while Mary worries about how long she'll be paying off the destroyed mech, Jin asks her what she knows about experiments on the colonial satellite. Only the higher-ups have that kind of information, and she says Jin will never get near them. Jin is next at the airport, asking Santana Lawrence if he can get Jin a booster. This somehow ends in a fight where Santana pilots Tarantula. On victory, Santana gladly gives up the booster. He warns Jin that there have been a lot of people from Earth core snooping around lately. Jin arrives at the satellite and barely gets to take in that his dad died here before Arietta shows up piloting the Killer Bee, begging for help as she can't control it. Jin helps her in the only way he knows, by beating her out of it. After the fight, he discovers that Arietta is the escaped prisoner Mary was looking for. She was imprisoned with no reason given and was being used to make a new weapon. She says the only way to deal with the weapon is to kill its brain and begs Jin to destroy it. But their talk gets interrupted by Princess Develot, who wants to add the parts of Jin's machine to her collection. Jin is very annoyed at pirates wasting his limited time, and so my sick fight is against the boss mech, Super 8. Develot is forced to flee and Jin rushes off to find the weapon. He finds the Resistance fleet, wondering what they are doing at the power station deep within Earth core territory. He runs into Chiyomaru Kagura and Tessan Hagure, who say that they can't stand up to any reinforcements, but they know that the weapon is here, telling the fleet to tear apart the entire station if they must. Jin tells them to wait, but Chiyomaru tells him to move or get destroyed. This leads to a fight with another boss mech, Gaitz. After winning the fight, Jin tells them that he knows about the weapon and that normal attacks won't work on it. He tells them to get him to the brain and he'll deal with it. He meets the brain, the GOD, piloting the Warlock. He says that it was created by the Earth core with the power to destroy anything, so that it can kill their enemies for them. But the act of creating it for that purpose led it to believe that humanity are their own worst enemies, so it intends to wipe it out. Jin declares his intent to avenge his father. While this is not Jin's final fight, the Warlock is the game's final boss equivalent. I haven't been talking about the actual fight so far, but I will make an exception to point out that Warlock is a bastard when controlled by the AI. Quite a few times took longer than every other opponent combined. You'll see his moves later on and how insane they can be, especially when controlled by 90s fighting game AI. After the battle, the power station's orbit begins to decay. If it hits Earth, it's not going to go very well. The GOD destroyed the controls though, but then Shade shows up. He mistakes Jin for Ken, asking him why he is back. He was forced to kill Ken once and asks why he keeps coming back. Jin realises that Shade was actually the accident that resulted in his dad's death, so he puts aside saving all those lives in danger at the falling station to fight Shade, who pilots the last of the boss mechs, Hellion. The stage even shows the station falling to Earth and burning up behind them. The beating gave Shade his memory back. He was told he would be made into the perfect soldier, but then they destroyed his mind to gain control over him. Ken was actually his best friend. He thanks Jin for giving him one last battle and the chance to repay his debt to Ken by saving his son. He flies into the station and self-destructs Hellion, knocking the station off course and making it disintegrate in the atmosphere, leaving only minor debris reaching Earth. Jin and Gawain pay their respects at a makeshift grave for Shade. Gawain asks why Jin looks so sad. He saved the Earth, so he's a hero. Jin denies this, saying all he was looking for was revenge. The world saving was just a side effect. Gawain doesn't respond to that, saying they should just go home now. So now I actually know what all that's about. The only part I was able to pick up on without English text was Shade's sacrifice. I remember when I was first playing this, I heard Jin's voice in the cutscenes and was like, I recognise that voice. That's Yamcha. I'll write a little bit about how much that makes me like Jin more. And then, I kid you not, the very next day, Toru Furuya admits to the fucked up, several kinds of abusive affair he had with a fan less than half his age. At least this time it came out before I made the video. This is the only time Furuya would voice Jin though, so it doesn't have to drag down Jin's appearance in Marvel vs Capcom if I ever get to that game. But let's move on to Mary Miyabi's story. Her canon armour is the Killer Bee, and I also went through with her piloting Riot. As we already know from Jin's story, Mary's a captain in the Earth Corps. Having been told that a prisoner has escaped, she mistakes Santana, piloting the Reptos, for her, somehow. Instead of admitting to her mistake, she demands Santana power down his machine so that she can arrest him, leading to her first fight. After she wins, Santana explains that he's a salvage dealer. He found Reptos abandoned and was taking it in. Mary asks what happened to the pilot, but Santana doesn't know, unless she was in the life pod he saw heading for Earth. So Mary gives chase. The life pod landed under the ocean, but when Mary follows it, she instead runs into Bao and Mao. Bao demands she leave them alone while Mao worries that Mary is going to hurt them. Mary wonders how a pair of kids even got into a variant armour, but Bao starts a fight to protect his sister. After defeating the 40 variant, she asks how they got it. Bao says an old man took them in and told them not to get inside the mech, but they did anyway because they wanted to explore, and he says the old man has someone new to look after anyway, a girl with green hair. Mary asks where this old man is, but then Devilot interrupts with plans to steal their machines. Devilot flees and Mary gets back to asking the kids about their new friend. Mary meets up with Gawain, who last saw her before she became captain. She asks what Gawain is doing here, but he refuses to let Mary go any further, so I have to fight him in the Cyclone. Mary apologises to Gawain, saying she doesn't know why he's protecting Arietta, but she's coming with her. Another armour approaches, this time piloted by Arietta, who Gawain begs not to as she can't control her powers. So next I have to fight Arietta piloting lightning. After defeating her, Gawain explains that Earth Corps are developing a weapon that feeds on life force. They kidnap people and drain them of their life force. Arietta was meant to power the weapon but escaped. She saw the others use Dai. Mary had no idea the force she was working for was capable of something so cruel. So next she approaches Chiyomaru and Tessan of the Resistance. She has left Earth Corps and is warning them of the weapon, but Chiyomaru has had many Earth Corps officers try methods like this to trap them, so I have to beat up his guides first. Mary says they can do what they want with this information, but she's going to destroy that weapon regardless of whether they help. But she has convinced them. They can't risk ignoring that warning in case the weapon does exist. They lead her to their secret base. The Resistance fleet is ready to take off in 2 minutes, but they are interrupted by Shade, who has been sent to eliminate Mary, now branded a traitor. Shade is capable of destroying the fleet before they can even launch, so Mary has to defeat the Hellion. On his defeat, Shade says it is too late as the weapon is already locked on, but Chiyomaru can detect the lock-on signal and track it to a beacon. Mary sends Chiyomaru to fight the weapon while she goes to deal with the beacon. It leads her to a volcano where Jin is, piloting Riot. She tells him to get out of there, as if the weapon strikes the beacon, the entire area is going up. Jin himself has been overloading the beacon's power system so that the resulting explosion should prevent the attack. They fight over who gets to try out their own solution. When Mary wins, she asks him why he even tried to sacrifice himself like that. Jin says that his father died for nothing, so he wants his own death to have some use. Mary calls him stupid for this. Besides, his method wouldn't work alone, but the two of them can deal with it together, even with Jin's VA being destroyed. Mary catches up with Chiyomaru and Tessan, the destruction of the beacon giving them 5 minutes to disable the weapon before it reaches maximum charge, but the GOD sends in the Warlock to put a stop to that. The Warlock and GOD are destroyed. Mary says they need to check the lab to see if there are still any kidnapped children left. There are. Chiyomaru tells Mary that he's proud to have fought alongside her, while Mary wraps her head around how she was helping this operation without knowing. Chiyomaru tells her that what matters is that she took action the moment she discovered what was going on. They free the kids and Arietta thanks Mary for her bravery, but Mary tells her that it wasn't bravery, but anger that motivated her, and that one day Arietta will understand. She then returns Arietta home. Continuing in character select order, next is Santana Lawrence. His cannon machine is Reptos, and I also went through with him piloting Lightning. Santana was once the leader of the Mars Revolution, hearing about that for the first time, and is now working on a plan to destroy the Earth Corps. He starts with confronting Jin, piloting Blodia, and asking for information on the Earth Corps' colonial satellite. Jin says he doesn't know what Santana is talking about, so Santana decides to beat the information out of him. After he does just that, Santana praises Jin, saying he's almost as good as his father Ken. Jin demands to know what Santana does, and he just says what Gawain told him in his own story, that there was an accident, and leaves. Having reached the colonial satellite, Santana dismisses it as useless with no helpful information. That's when Chiyomaru and Tessan show up. Chiyomaru asks if Santana is Earth Corps, Santana says no, and Chiyomaru goes, "No, you are, and now I have to fight guys." After defeating them, Santana asks why the Resistance are on the satellite. They use it to spy on the Earth Corps. Since Santana kicked their asses, Chiyomaru asks him to join them, but he turns them down, saying he already fought his battles back on Mars, and this has him run into Mary and the Killer Bee, who Santana assumes is looking for Chiyomaru. Mary asks if Santana is resistance, he says no, and this time he picks the fight first. After the fight, Santana wants to know where the Earth Core HQ is, but Mary would rather die than tell him. Well, the screen fades out while Santana says that it can be arranged, and we never see her again in this run, so maybe he did kill her. He finds the HQ, but it's the Resistance HQ, and he's attacked by Bao and Mao in the Golden, who also think he is Earth Core. Once he defeats them, he asks who is taking care of them. In this route, it's Chiyomaru caring for them. He wants to apologise and ask him to come with them, but Santana has picked up a familiar looking signal and rushes off again. He finds Shade, and the two know each other from Mars. So the next fight is against the Hellion. Shade says that he may be defeated, but the Doomsday weapon is still aimed at Earth. The Hellion explodes and there is no life pod. Santana has caused the deaths of nearly a third of the game's pilots. He needs to deal with that weapon, but he's delayed as Devilot shows up again, looking for more machine parts, so I defeat the Super 8 again. Devilot flees and Santana flies off. He runs into Gawain at the airport, piloting Vice and asking Santana not to do this alone, but Santana doesn't want to risk getting the old man killed, so he's going to mangle him himself to get him out of his way. Gawain concedes, happy he at least got a few hits in, before Santana moves again. He finds the GOD, this time piloting Jackal. They each throw out a few death threats, and since the GOD isn't piloting Warlock this time, it's the easiest fight I have against them. The GOD is destroyed, but Santana picks up Resistance fighters flying high speed to Earth. The GOD has somehow survived and taken control of the ships, along with taking control of Arietta's body and is making her pilot the Warlock. Santana is disgusted, but he is prepared to kill Arietta if that's what will prevent Earth's destruction. Since Warlock isn't piloted by the GOD directly, there's a unique, more downbeat theme for when you're fighting Warlock piloted by Arietta. The GOD is properly killed this time and Arietta is freed from its control. Santana and Chiyomaru manage to free her before the Warlock explodes. Okay, but why does she, and only she, have to be naked when piloting a mech? Arietta is alive and has no memory of what she did under the brain's control. With the Earth Core defeated, Santana decides to retire from the mercenary life and instead makes a living selling off old stolen Earth Core weapons and armour. He's also taken on Arietta as his assistant. Half the default cast down, Gawain Murdoch is next. His cannon mech is Golden and I also used him to pilot Jackal. After retiring as an Earth Core captain, he lived on Earth but as far away from humanity as he can. Turns out that means underwater, as that's where Mary finds him, piloting Reptos. She's here to arrest him. She doesn't want to, but those are her orders. Gawain refuses to be taken back to the station. Mary asks him once again to come with her, saying they'll hunt him down if he doesn't, but Gawain will take that chance. When Gawain asks what the Earth Core could want with the retired old man, Mary admits she doesn't know. Gawain then reunites with Santana. He wants to know what's going on with the Earth Core and knows that Santana had a lot of contacts back during the Mars Revolution. Santana has the information, but the price is a fight with his swordsman. After his loss, Santana says that the Earth Core are up to something, but he doesn't get to finish before we get another Devilot interruption. Once again smash up the Super 8 and make her run away. Santana tells Gawain about the Earth Core's new weapon which will fry the Resistance. So Gawain sets up a meeting with Chiyomaru and Tessan at the airport, the best place to hide your giant robot conversations. Gawain asks to come with them to the colonial satellite. Chiyomaru thinks Gawain is a fool for showing how much he knows and says that he can't be allowed to leave. After Gaius is scrapped, Chiyomaru asks why Gawain wants to come with them. Gawain has already lost too much to the Earth Core and refuses to let any more die. Chiyomaru admits that their chances aren't good, but the weapon can wipe out countless lives at once, so they must strike now. Gawain also doubts the Resistance's chances, but gets his thinking interrupted by a Fori that turns out to be piloted by Arietta. With the mech destroyed and Arietta becoming aware again, Gawain checks on her and finds out her name. She gives the same backstory she gives Mary and begs Gawain to check the lab she escaped from as others may still be alive. But before he can get her to explain herself more clearly, he's attacked again by Bao and Mao in the Cyclone. After taking them out, he wonders where all these children are coming from. Arietta tells him not to hurt them as they helped her escape from the satellite. Bao and Mao are here to warn Arietta that there are more after her and she should keep running. Gawain takes them to the Resistance HQ to keep them safe. But when he gets there, Shade is waiting in the Hellion. He's been made to kill the Resistance for treason against the Earth Core. After the fight, Gawain discovers that it was Shade, who he was led to believe was dead and the experiment on him shut down. He realises that what he was told was a malfunction that resulted in the deaths of his men a year ago was actually his unit being used to test Shade's abilities. With the Earth Core targeting their own people and now children, Gawain decides they must be made to pay. He swears it to Shade. He confronts the GOD inside the Warlock, saying that its death will be more merciful than those he's lost. The brain is destroyed, but brags that it will still wipe out humanity. Gawain warns the Resistance that the satellite is about to fire and that the power needs to be cut. That's when Jin shows up in Riot, looking for answers to his father's death. He's worked out everything that's going on and is ready to destroy the satellite himself. Gawain tries to warn him that there may still be children trapped here, but Jin isn't listening, so Gawain has to wreck his machine. Gawain asks if Jin believes that innocents trapped on the station deserve to die too, but Jin isn't listening. Gawain says that the only way to stop the satellite now is to make it self-destruct, which is his job. He tells Jin that if he wants to make a difference, he can save the children trapped here. He then flies full speed into the satellite and sets off for self-destruct. The civilians were saved and the weapon destroyed, but all that could be found of Gawain was his sword. Jin pays his respects to Gawain, saying that the children were saved and the truth about his unit has been made public. But he doesn't want to believe that Gawain is truly dead, and will hold on to his sword until he comes out of hiding for it someday. Next is Bao and Mao, with Vice as their cannon mech and the second playthrough having them pilot Tarantula. The twins were orphaned when the Earth Core destroyed their home. In the forest, they find what they assume to be an animal, but is the mech you chose to play as. They get inside, but Gawain approaches them in the Golden, telling them to get out before they hurt themselves, but they can't figure out how to open it and mashing the controls has them fight Gawain. Mao wonders if Gawain survived, but Bao flees before anyone arrives to ask questions. They end up at the airport and run into Arietta piloting the Tarantula, refusing to let the two, who she has mistaken for lab staff, take her again. She doesn't believe Bao when he says he isn't from the lab. After the fight, Arietta apologises for thinking they were from the lab, giving Bao the idea to find the lab and destroy it. Arietta says the Earth Core are too strong, and Mao says they have already arrived, but it's just Devilot again and her usual thing. As usual, I destroy the Super 8 and she runs off again. Arietta thinks they should be safe for now, and Bao and Mao take her with them, but she's starting to look ill. That's when Santana shows up in the Swordsman, having been looking for the machine the kids took, so they have to fight him off to keep it. Santana is impressed, but then gets a call from Chiyomaru, saying he's a doctor and to bring Arietta to them. They ask Chiyomaru if he can cure her, but she's giving off an identical energy signature to the Doomsday weapon. He needs to examine her closely, but Bao doesn't trust him. After Geitz is destroyed, Chiyomaru stresses that they are not from the Earth Core, that they oppose them in every way. He asks the kids to help them fight off the Earth Core. Arietta struggles with the medical examination and they are interrupted by Shade in the Hellion. He is here to retrieve Arietta as she is needed to be the Doomsday weapon's power source, but Bao isn't having that. During the fight, Chiyomaru discovered that it isn't just Arietta and that multiple children are being used to power the weapon. They've traced the Doomsday signal to its source, but Devilot gets in their way again, wanting revenge. Wreck the Super 8 again, and she's forced to run away again. Chiyomaru has disarmed the Doomsday weapon but is still picking up readings. The Earth Core has also found them, and Mary shows up in the Jackal looking to arrest the kids. Mary says Earth Core just wants the girl, but doesn't know why, so Chiyomaru fills her in on what she's missing. He's finally tracked the Doomsday readings to the volcano. It's the Warlock, which the Brain plans to wipe out humanity with by self-destructing it here to cause a chain reaction straight to the Earth's core that would wipe out the planet. With the Earth safe, Bao and Mao can finally leave the armour. Of course they do so onto the edge of a cliff over lava that breaks off. Below, Devilot's servants are repairing the Super 8 again. That's when Bao and Mao fall on top of them and have a big fight with them all cramped into the Super 8's cockpit. That leaves the last of the default pilots with Arietta, whose main mech is 4D and whose second run uses Cyclone. The opening text covers Arietta escaping from the lab, stealing a mech and hiding in an Earth Core space shuttle. She lands at the airport the exact same time Bao and Mao do in the 4D, both thinking the other is here to capture them. After the fight, Arietta apologises for the misunderstanding. Bao can't believe they were both hiding on the same ship. They stole some kind of device from the lab, but Arietta doesn't know what it is either, but believes having it puts them in danger. They decide to split up to prevent the Earth Core catching them all at once. It's not long before Mary catches up to Arietta in the Killer Bee. Mary asks Arietta to come quietly with the device, but Arietta refuses to go back to the lab. Mary is forced to flee, promising she'll return, while Arietta repeats that she is not going back. She has lost too many friends to the experiments. Hearing that the Earth Core has been killing humans for experiments has Mary back off. Arietta then gets lost, running into Jin in the Blodia. He believes Arietta is from the Earth Core and does his signature move, starting a fight before the other side can correct him. The defeated Jin asks what Arietta is doing here and she fills him in on her story. She cries for Jin's help, but Devilot, as always, picks the most inconvenient time to interrupt. But this time she's after machine parts, she wants to take Arietta back to the lab. Super 8 is destroyed again and Devilot flees, saying that Arietta was lucky. But Jin believes there was no luck involved. Jin points Arietta to the secret HQ where Gawain can take care of her. Gawain reassures her that the Resistance will look after her. but Arietta starts feeling strange and loses control of her body, attacking Gawain in the vice. After the fight, Arietta passes out, making Gawain wonder just what they did to her. He takes her to the medical lab to see if the doctors can help. The medical lab is underwater, it seems. That's when Chiyomaru explains the energy signal stuff from Bao and Mao's story. For some reason they never took Arietta out of the mech, so she loses control again and attacks Chiyomaru. After destroying Geitz, Arietta comes to with no memory of what she did. Gawain then explains to her that she has become the battery for the Doomsday weapon, making her feel responsible for the deaths of the children during the experiments. Chiyomaru says they must attack the Earth core now. This leads to a confrontation with Shade in the Hellion. It seems to be powered by the Doomsday weapon, so only Arietta can defeat it. Shade doesn't even get a line in this story before he's killed. Arietta takes on the GOD, piloting the Jackal. It says the same stuff it always does and I defeat it. The Doomsday weapon is still fully charged though and heading to the Earth. The GOD starts using the Warlock while Arietta wonders if, since the weapon is powered by the emotional energy of the children, she can channel that energy away from the weapon and through her own body. But the Warlock needs dealing with first. The weapon manages to fire, but Arietta flies right into the explosion and absorbs it before it can spread. She's left drifting through space, but alive so the others can recover her. She wakes up in hospital with Gawain, Bao and Mao beside her. She isn't sure exactly what happened, but also credits Gawain with her own idea to absorb the energy. With the brain dealt with, Arietta, Bao and Mao are now free to get on with their lives. That is the default cast, but the bosses were unlockable on the arcade. The 3 sub-bosses are playable by default on the Saturn though, and their pilots each have their own story modes too. I'll cover each boss and their stories together, starting with Geitz, once a regular enemy back in powered gear, upgraded to sub-boss here. Its weapon is a wrist-mounted missile launcher. A forward Z input and attack gets you the Mondo Muyo, a Shoryuken. Quarter circle forward and attack is the Ikitosen, throwing a ball of electricity. It can also be used in the air. Charge back forward and attack is the Shogyo Mujo, a forwards teleport. The super is the Kuzen Zetsugo, another robotic Shoryu Repper. I really enjoyed playing as Geitz. With the basic projectile and Shoryuken, it felt almost like I was playing a robotic Ryu with rocket boosters who could zip all over the place. I did find it to be a bit weak though and got my ass kicked a lot by the AI, but I enjoyed playing as it so much that I didn't mind at all. When it comes to Chiyomaru Kagura's story, I come to a bit of an issue. These stories were added to the Saturn port, which was never released in English, so I have no idea what's going on. All I can do is tell you the fights. To start with, Chiyomaru is talking to Tessan at the secret HQ. I have to fight Tessan, piloting his own Geitz. After that, Tessan is Chiyomaru's co-pilot. For the second fight, Gawain appears in the Golden. Fight 3 has him running to Jin in the Bloodier underwater. After that it's Mary in the Killer Bee. After that there's an explosion that separates Chiyomaru from Tessan and sees him running to Santana in the Swordsman for Fight 5. Then comes Arietta at the airport in the Tarantula for the 6th fight. Chiyomaru reunites with Tessan at the secret HQ and they go for the Doomsday weapon, but Shade shows up in the Hellion. Shade is killed with no lines again and Mary is here with some shadowy guy. I assume some Earthcore higher up talking in her ear. The GOD shows up in the Warlock for Fight 8. The last fight is against Mary, the Jackal. They argue some more and the satellite starts falling to Earth. Chiyomaru tries holding it with Geitz and Jin shows up in Bloodier to help out, and Santana in a second Bloodier, and Arietta in a second Golden, and then a fleet of Geitz, while Mary watches on. And then I guess the ending picture is just the Resistance won. Moving on to the next sub-boss, we have Hellion, one of the stage bosses from Powered Gear. Its weapon is the big laser on its back. God Kugel is firing a huge missile with quarter circle forward and attack. If it hits the ground it will also create a series of explosions. Flugelbogen is done with half circle back and attack, a quick vertical beam slash. Quarter circle back in the air is Himmelfangen, a swooping grab attack. The super is Schlachtfeld, a very long combo. Hellion was another fun one. The special moves are a bit more awkward to land than Geitz's, but the normals really make this character. I love the rapid punching dash attack, and the quick beam slash move was very easy to pin opponents in the corner with, until they decided they had enough that is. Shade's story starts with Tessan and a couple others piloting Geitz. The others are destroyed before Shade appears and Tessan has to fight him alone. Tessan looks to be killed and Gawain is also here and injured. Shadowy Earthcore guy is giving some kind of report about Shade and he's suddenly against Jin in Bloodier in some kind of sporting fight. After each fight there's a lot of shady guys talking that I can't make out. Next is Mary in the Killer Bee, but she doesn't fight. The scene switches to Shade taking on Santana in Reptos. Mary says something to Shade that makes him leave after the fight. Shade has flashbacks of things Jin and Santana say that have the shady guys worried. Mary seems to be trying to get him under control, so I have to fight her. Before he can finish Mary, Chiyomaru and the actually alive Tessan appear in Gaits for the next fight. Chiyomaru and Mary have things to say to Shade, and then we're suddenly in space taking on Bao and Mao in 4D. After defeating them, Gawain shows up in Cyclone, and it seems like Shade remembers him. They still fight though. Jin shows up in Riot next, but then so does the Brain in Warlock, which I fight first. Once that's dealt with, Jin is next. I'm assuming the context is the same as it is in Jin's story. They talk, Shade looks to be overloading or something, and Hellion explodes with him inside. The ending screen shows Jin and Gawain looking sad. Then the final sub-boss with the Super 8, based on the early underwater powered gear boss, Agmis. For his weapon it fires missiles. Half circle forward and attack is the Red Omega, a throw using a giant magnet. A forward Z input and attack is the Octopus Jr., releasing a tentacle to move along the ground. With heavy attack it moves in a more wavy pattern. Down, up and light attack is Devil Chi, swinging a spiked ball along the ground. Down, up and heavy attack is the final Omicron, a vertical downward axe slash. Its super is Death Satan Sigma, releasing several huge missiles at once. Super 8 is alright, but I found it a little awkward to control with it being so big and a little slow. I liked being able to do a throw on a downed opponent, but apart from that, it was my least favourite of the sub-bosses to play as. And now for the story of Princess Develot de Death Satan the Ninth. The story starts with her dad, Emperor Death Satan, saying something to her. Apparently she has a crush on Gawain, and my first fight is against Warlock, piloted by the Emperor. After that fight it looks like she's leaving home and trying to leave her servants behind. But Jin shows up in Blodia to bully them, so Develot returns to fight them. After that fight, Develot lets her servants come with her as she goes on to bully Arietta in the 40. They talk a bit afterwards and Develot leaves her. Near the volcano she runs into Bao and Mao in the Golden and fights them. She flies off after beating them and ends up fighting Shade in the Hellion next. In the victory cutscene she somehow blows up Super 8. It's fine in the next scene and her bath is interrupted by Chiyomaru in Gaits. I made fun of Arietta's nakedness earlier, but why is the little girl sexualised so fucking much? There was the bathing suit shit last scene, and then here they're trying to show as much as they can get away with. And make no mistake, she is a child. This game is set near the end of the 21st century, and her year of birth is given as 2086. It's just gross. After defeating Chiyomaru, she ends up at the airport taking on Mary and the Killer Bee. I think after the fight she somehow won Mary over. She runs into Warlock again next, this time controlled by the GOD, which stands for Ganglia Zord Mission Disruptor since I never brought it up before. So the corrupt Earth government made an evil mechanical brain to wipe out their enemies, but it turned on them. Then 200 years later in Powered Gear, they made another giant mechanical brain for invading planet Raya. Is this just their thing? She responds to defeating Warlock by fangirling over Gawain before she tracks him down to beneath the ocean. Based on the tone of the voice acting, Gawain sounds more amused by it than anything, and thank fuck he didn't sound thrilled about it. I hope that's what's going on anyway. And so her final fight is against Gawain in Vice. I assume the ending picture is saying she grows up to be some big villain and also Mary and Gawain are part of her crew. Beating Arcade Mode as the sub-bosses allows the other pilots to use their mechs as well, but I've also unlocked 2 more characters doing this. First is Warlock, the recurring Powered Gear boss piloted by that game's villain Azrael, who I have Jim pilot. Its weapon has it fire its own explosive fist. Quad circle forward and attack is the Sacred Stare, a grappling shot that results in a few extra pulls if it connects to the right distance. Chargeback forward and attack is Massive Projectile Forbidden Force. It can also be used in the air and doubles back after it hits for a chance of a second hit. Imitation Alpha is done with back and boost, forward and boost. It creates a double of Warlock that copies all of its physical attacks. There's also a projectile doubling version with forward, light attack, light attack and back. The super is Final Sacrifice, 4 spinning orbs that take up a huge chunk of the screen. Warlock is a beast, and after the hell I went through beating it with certain characters, it had better have been. This is what I want in hard to unlock boss characters. I play alone, so when I get them, I just want to wind down and annihilate the AI with it. Either its normals are brutal, like the dashing rainbow punch thing and multiple crouching strikes. Definitely a worthy reward. But that's not the last character. Just by playing a ton of matches, usually retries some story mode losses, I'd unlocked Zero Akuma, or Zed Goki, before I'd even completed my 4th playthrough. So yeah, it's a massive mech based on Akuma from Street Fighter. I go through with Mary piloting it. It has no weapon. Quad circle forward and attack is the Go Hadoken, with it becoming Zanku Hadoken in the air. Forward Z input and attack is the Go Shoryuken. Quad circle back and attack is the Tatsumaki Zanku Kyak, which can also be done in the air. I somehow forgot to show off the Shakunatsu Hadouken with half circle back and attack. It's been turned into a laser in this game. He has multiple supers, the Shungoku Sats with light attack, forward, weapon and boost, Mesatsu Go Shoryu with double quarter circle forward and attack, Mesatsu Go Hado with double quarter circle back and attack, double quarter circle forward and weapon in the air for Tenmago Zanku, double quarter circle back and weapon for Misatsu Gorasen. I feel like I'm doing the game a disservice by having the adapted Street Fighter character be the one I found the most fun. But I can't help it, Zero Akama is really fun. Akama himself is a load of fun normally, so of course turning him into a giant robot won't change that. There's something about throwing out Tatsumakis as a giant mech that really speaks to me. This is why I had to play the Saturn port. Zero Akama is not playable on the arcade version. Honestly, I think it's a shame most of the roster is trapped to this game. It's not often to begin with, but when it does, it only ever tends to be just Jin or Devilot. Just the main character and the sexualised child. And that doesn't do this cast justice. Well, I don't have anything against Bao or Chiyomaru, but I don't have too much interest in them as MVC characters just from looking at them. But I think Mary, Santana, Gawain, Arietta or Shade could brighten up any roster by having one of them appear. Or even the mechs if they ever bring back the giant characters from Tatsunoko vs Capcom. Just throwing it out there, if they're ever worried about too many Shotos but still want Akama in the next Versus game, Zero Akama is right there. But enough of that, time to finish this game off. And that's this game done. I enjoyed Cyberbots. It has a lot of fun characters and it doesn't fall into the trap other fighting games with giant characters have by making them painfully slow and clunky. Instead I'm zipping about throwing lasers everywhere. It has a memorable cast of characters and giving everyone their own story route with cutscenes and dialogue was a lot for 1995. It has some really nice looking stages when they aren't blinding you like the Fallen Satellite, and some really good music. With that, I have completed my 8th series on this channel. I don't count Techromancer as part of the series since it just has the one guest character from this series, but where does it rank? This is the first time using this spreadsheet in case anyone missed the changes video from the end of August. Well, Powered Gear is ranked 76th, and I liked it more than that. The next thing to compare it to is Capcom Fighting Games, and next along the ranking is Street Fighter Alpha as 67th, and I like it more than that. I'm moving further, and I'm getting stuck around the early 50s. We're getting a lot of games I'm quite attached to now, so it's starting to get tough. In the end, I'm going to place it 54th, above Super Mario Kart but below Dead or Alive 1 Ultimate. That just feels right to me. This was a pretty strong 2-game series, a pretty good beat 'em up followed by a pretty good fighting game. It's a shame it didn't get much more than this.